Michael, it's now over to you, part two.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to conclude the second section that we were looking at before the coffee break with a couple of examples of positive and negative spiritual power in action. Now, as I've said before in this room, my spiritual teacher, Joan, would only go to the doctors to have confirmed what was wrong with her. She'd go to the doctors and say, I don't want surgery, I don't want drugs, I don't want treatment of any kind. I just want you to tell me what's wrong with me. Once you've told me exactly what's wrong with me, I will take that home and give it to God and I'll heal myself. But every so often, she would need confirmation of what she was ailing from. So she would find herself sitting in a doctor's waiting room. Do you remember those doctor's waiting rooms? There used to be a very cold one in Great Harwood that I frequently visited as a child because I had trouble with my ears. And there were benches along all four walls and a little gas fire in the centre, and it was freezing. And it was on an honour system in those days. There wasn't a receptionist. You would go in and say, well, I think you were before me, and then it's that gentleman over there, and you'd wait and go in and see the doctor. And on this particular occasion, Joan was in the doctor's waiting room, and people were talking amongst themselves, as they did, to pass the time. And one gentleman had a particular beef about something. What it was isn't important. I don't know whether it's political or the council had charged him too much on his rates or something like that. But he was very angry. And he started off this conversation by being very angry and telling everybody what he was angry about. And then somebody else joined in with him, and they became angry too. And then somebody joined in with those two and became angry. And within a few minutes, that room was filled with anger, with the barbs of anger. And people were having a high old time saying how sick they were of this and sick they were of that, and what they would do to people if only they could get hold of them. Now, Joan would always say to people, I won't argue with you. For the sake of my immortal soul, I will not argue with you. I am not going to drag myself down to a lower level of vibration. So if you want to argue, go ahead, but I'm not going to do it. So she sat there not taking part in this conversation, and then she looked up and she saw swinging from the light fitting above the room what she described as a little dark goblin. And this little thought form was having a high old time. It was swinging there. It was absorbing the anger from the room, and it was adding to the anger in the room. It wanted more chaos. And so, unseen by everybody else, of course, it was contributing to this chaos and hoping to keep up this level of upset, of negative vibration. And so Joan closed her eyes and prayed for the light and said, oh, Father, we've got to stop this. We need the light in here. And so the light poured out from her and she added to it. And very quickly, that room calmed down. People started looking at each other and thinking, what are we arguing about? Why have we been arguing? And they looked very shamefaced and became very quiet. And the little goblin popped and disappeared. So there you have an example, a quick example of the power of light and the destructive power of the negative side of our creativity. Now, many years ago, when I worked one-to-one as a medium, I was very frequently asked to come and sort out disturbed houses. Didn't like that, but I had to do it. And on this particular occasion, there was a phone call, and the occupants of this particular house said, all sorts of things are happening in our house. Writings are appearing on the wall and drawings, and it's very dark and dismal, and we don't know what's wrong. We can't clear things. Will you come and have a look? Yes, of course I will. But my first port of call before I went to have a look was always to say, will somebody come with me, please? Somebody who knows what they're doing, because I don't know what I'm doing. In all situations, I don't know what I'm doing, but you do. And on this occasion, it was the big Indian from Joseph's Soul Group, very powerful spirit. And so we gathered the occupants of the house in the living room and said, would you mind if I go through each room and see what's happening? And they said, yeah, that's fine. You stay in the living room, I'll look through the house. So the first port of call was the bathroom, and immediately I entered the bathroom, I was confronted by a spirit, an older lady who looked like one of the witches from Macbeth, and who threatened upon seeing me, and she was in a rage, threatened upon seeing me to do all sorts of unspeakable, terrible things to me. I won't relay what she said to me because it's not that type of day. I wouldn't anyway. But she was very violent in what she was saying to me. And I said, you can't do any of those things to me because you're on a different vibration, which made her even more enraged. But then the big Indian stood between me and this spirit, held his hands out, and golden light spread out from his hands and sealed the room off like a barrier, like a force field. And then when he got it in place, he pushed and walked forwards. And as he pushed and walked forwards, the light pushed forwards in front of him. And the spirit retreated and retreated and retreated, and she disappeared out of the house and was gone. So that was the bathroom sorted out. We prayed for light in the bathroom. We then were on the stairwell when a man appeared this time, looked at me with hatred in his eyes and said, I'm going to kill you. I said, I don't think you are. I don't think you can. We're not on the same vibration, which enraged him. This time, the big Indian stood between me and this gentleman and formed a cross of golden light in front of him. And this cross grew and grew and grew, and he pushed it with one hand. And again, the spirit was pushed out of the house, and the light disappeared. And the big Indian said to me, there is a teenage girl in this house, and she is bringing in this chaos deliberately. And you need to talk to her. I will talk to her through you. Gather everybody in the living room and talk to her. And so we sat down with this young girl, and he said, why are you doing this? And she said, I can't forgive God for the death of my brother. Now, I can't remember which it was. Either her brother had died young through a car accident or through illness. Forgive me, I can't remember which it was. But she had blamed God for this and would not forgive, in her mind, God for what had happened to her brother. And she deliberately was bringing chaos into that house. And the big Indian said, as long as you want chaos to come into this house, it will come in. You need to forgive. There's nothing to forgive, but you need to forgive. And you need to let go of this conception of God as being against you. So we went through each room, and every room was cleared. There was light in that house. There was peace in that house. It was wonderful. A week later, I got a phone call again. The house is disturbed again. And I said, I'm sorry, but your daughter is purposely bringing in that chaos. And until such time as she decides not to do that, there is nothing I can do. Because every time I clear the house, it will be disturbed again. So there you have two examples of powerful you. You have a powerful spirit like the big Indian using angel creativity and positivity to rid a house of negative vibrations. And you have a powerful you, exclamation mark, person on earth determined to draw on the negative side of things and to bring in chaos and to repeatedly bring in chaos to cause harm to her parents and to the house that she's living in. The moral of the story is that we must always focus on the light. Those spirits could not do a thing to me and could not do a thing to the house when confronted with the light. But that girl was welcoming in the darkness, and by welcoming in the darkness, she was bringing it in.